milking block trails for like the third time since this is my chance to get the most out of it. I did a somewhat similar concept with doors, but instead of intelligence for this idea, it'll be based on strength since I do not want to copy myself. Wow, crazy. This will include most of the bosses, and I know that some bosses like the Trinity Council have 3 enemies, like Robur, Azuri, and Reginald, and I'll be ranking each member based on their strength and how they work as a team. This will also make more sense logically, as I know Blocktail's logic is pretty good. I will most likely get flamed for this, so go for it in the comments. The first thing we see is that they are kids, so they obviously have a weakness when it comes to close combat, but they do make up for this with the swords they have. Swords in general are just overpowered, as they are sharp, and yeah. The second benefit is that they are together in this battle, so it gives them another tier of survivability, but they do not have any team attack moves, like the Trinity Council. But also, when you think about it, if one of them dies, it makes sense for the other to get a buff, because mentally, you will get more angry at a person who legitimately injured someone you know well. But anyways, if they had team attacks, I think they would be like a 4.5 out of 10 for strength, but since they are just kids and attack on their own, 1.5 out of 10. You could probably just beat them easily if you fought them in real life. Ignoring red and blue in this fight, but Noobador just seems pretty strong. First of all, how strong is that ball he throws? For all we know, it can either be a rubber ball or a freaking bowling ball that can do some damage because in game, it deals like 10 damage to us, and he also directly aims at our head. But yeah, if we just knew how strong the ball is, we can definitely get an answer. And lastly, with his elbow attack, since our player is stupid and is around the same size as him, what if we just push him away? Like, think about it. We have a sword and a ball, so of course, we have some power to yeet Noobador, and he uses his bare body and nothing else. No armor, no anything. So like, this move in reality can be super easy to counter in real life. So 4 out of 10 for strength. He does have the size advantage unlike red and blue, but since he doesn't really have that many weapons, it would be easy. And you'll see later on that weapons are actually really helpful. Now in reality, is this ant like the size of the one in game, or just a royal ant that you will find in the wild? Because if it were an ant that you would encounter in real life, it would be like a negative 42 out of 10, because you could just stomp on it, and boom, it's dead. However, if the ant were the same size of the player, then low-key, she would just defeat us. First of all, if we take a look at an ant sting, this looks brutal and would itch like crazy. And if we decide to multiply that sting by like your arm, then that can just probably end you. Second of all, once you get stunned, it is basically going to be impossible to fight her off because you are constantly itchy. And if she decides to summon ants on top of that, you might as well just kiss yourself goodbye. So in reality, she is weaker than ever in the actual game, but overpowered in real life. I have to give her a 7 out of 10. Just try to fight off a real big ant in real life. Fuzzled would know, right? At this point, every single boss might get a high score. Sentient Statue is just strong. With his zooming attack, how the hell are you supposed to avoid that in real life? Like in game, it is easy, but when you have a statue that is taller than you and rushing at you at like 50 miles per hour, it is a different story. It would probably also just crush your body to the oblivion, and there is just no way to avoid that at all whatsoever. Considering his size and height are like miles bigger than yours, there is just no way. With Statue Smash, I would say it is a bit more forgiving, as you can probably just run backwards to counter it, but still, that is hard because of how big the dude is. Like, he might be the size of the Eiffel Tower, I don't know. And that is it. He only has 2 moves, giving you no time to take a deep breath. So like, even though he is just a statue and that is it, he is quite overpowered with just those 2 moves alone. So 8 out of 10. Like, he is probably the strongest boss that does not have any weapons on him, unlike pretty much every other boss. The final boss for chapter 1, and I have to say, this will definitely start to get complicated. First of all, this guy has the most number of moves, the most so far. First, he has a frozen move. How cold is the ice realistically? Like, it could either be negative 42 degrees Celsius or normal temperature like 15 degrees. And if that is on the ground, how are you supposed to avoid it by jumping? Well, once you look at it, if you can only jump 6 meters off the ground, then you might still get frozen regardless. And considering when you get frozen, you get shivers and cannot move at all. So if Cruel King decides to use that, you might as well be dead because you will have hypothermia as well. His second move is just him smacking you with his wand, and honestly in game, it does 20 damage, but I think you can dodge it fairly easily in real life, and if you do get hit by it, it wouldn't hurt as much compared to the game, as it is just a wand attack. Now probably the move that will end most people's lives is to choke. Just no questions need to be explained. If you are getting choked in real life, the chances of you escaping are like none. Well, maybe not none, but like it'll hurt, unless the person is smaller than you. But Cruel King is almost the same size as you, so I think this could just tire you out so much or even kill you. And with Famine, it is just a punch move, and compared to all his other moves, you can survive this move just fine. Now if he had the ice dagger and did the freeze move, getting hit by a strong sword that could potentially freeze you is extremely frightening, just like the previous frozen move. Lastly, there are his summons, which is basically just game over, as he can summon Sentient Statue, which we already talked about. He can also summon archers, which is also extremely luck based, as they could either shoot out an extremely fast arrow that are extremely hard to dodge, because if they are going at like 50 miles per hour, you cannot dodge that. On the other hand, he can also just shoot out a super slow arrow, which you can most likely easily dodge in real life. And the last thing he can summon is the Knight, who can also just hurt you extremely bad with the sword he has. He also has a shield, which makes this even more terrifying by the second, since it'll probably make it harder to kill him. So combining all of these summons and frozen powers, you might be like, he has no weakness, and you are just dead. Well, the last thing I want to mention is that according to Trinity, they hired him to be a king, and since the Trinity Council is like 100 years old, I would assume Crow King is around 70 to 80 years old. But he has magic, so I don't think that would matter as much. So finally, with all that being said, he gets like a 10 out of 10. Like, make sure he stays far away from me and I'll be good. Although Elsa is definitely stronger because she can make ice shards, and Crow King is just an old man. And I don't know how old Elsa is, but she looks pretty young. Moving on to Demo 2, and this boss in particular was the whole reason why I wanted to do this video idea, because Komodo Dragons are heavily underestimated for their strengths in the wilderness. For some context, they can weigh 330 pounds, which is 140 kilograms, and they have enough venom to kill humans, which are us in this case. They are also just massive in size, and compared to humans, their armor I'm pretty sure is insanely thick, which will just make it hard to injure them in any way. So with this in mind, her first attack is biting you, which, let's be so honest, is kiss yourself goodbye if you cannot avoid this, as the venom they carry will end you. Lastly, there is her tail smack, which if you have seen animals flicking their tails, it is pretty much another one of those. To put it into perspective, it is like having 10 fans next to you at the maximum possible setting and them all blowing their blades directly at you. You pretty much get knocked back and fall down, and at that point, you are just very weak to keep on fighting, so you just die in general. For this, Komodo Dragon gets an 8.5 out of 10. Like, if you get poisoned by her, you are just a sitting duck and boom, dead. Now, with Griefer at his fullest potential with the Venom Shank, it would just be an unfair battle. Like, having someone with a poison sword is actually just straight up rigged. First of all, he has one move where he can slice you, which is probably possible to dodge, but like, it would be super hard. And the second move is pretty much just impossible to dodge in real life, because how on earth are you supposed to dodge a teenager that spins around like a person if they were forced to act like a tornado in charades? But anyways, with his sword only moves being very dangerous, I think his crowbar as a weapon is much easier to dodge, because it mainly involves him trying to smack you with it. The first are both the slam moves, which basically involve him jumping down from the sky, and that is basically all. This does not look that bad considering it is just a crowbar, and crowbars aren't nearly as strong when you compare them to swords and staffs from other bosses, like the Trinity Council and Crow King. And I don't know what else to say about Griefer besides he is 21, and that probably gives him agility or some other prodigy move young people would have, so 5.5 out of 10. As for Bigfoot, we can all agree that compared to real life and in-game, the difference is wild. First of all, the main difference is literally in the name, his size. Like, how on earth are you dodging this guy? It is just not possible. He could probably just grab us if he wanted to and kill us right there and then. But nope, he has some pretty interesting moves. First, it's just the casual stomping on you, which is just already dangerous on itself, since the size gap is wild. The second move is pretty much just an upgraded version of Stomp, because he uses his whole body, which can probably crush your ribs inside your body from how tall and fast he is dropping. And the last move that will most likely just crush me physically is Vine Swinging, because how on earth do you dodge a giant mystic creature that is ramming into your face at like 42,000 miles per hour? Just take a second to see his speed and size. You might be like, run to the side, but once you get hit by something, think about how hard it is to get back up and run to the side. Unless you have like 42 out of 20 vision, you are not dodging this move at all. But finally, the most feared move is Stomp Fury, because this man just full on has no mercy and just starts beating you up like it's the end of the world. He uses his hands and legs to fully just murder you, and considering the Stomp move was already too much, this is like 100 times worse. And it's like, what did I do to this guy to make him that mad at me? So this guy gets a 9 out of 10. There's a reason why they call him Bigfoot, you know? The grandfather of plants, and I feel like he would destroy me. I feel like every single boss is just strong, and I get why they are called bosses. But yeah, let's just assume that he cannot apply poison, because then that'll just pretty much instantly kill us. But starting with the bite move, there's just no way I am avoiding a giant creature's bite that is the size of my whole body when he opens his mouth. And if you look at his teeth, they are pretty sharp. Secondly, there is his 2 ground thingy move that I don't know what it's called, but I feel like this move is not that bad if all things are considered. Like, it is just 2 tentacles that do not look that harmful. Maybe this is just me, but I feel like this move is actually pretty weak on paper, because it is just him stabbing you twice. Thirdly, we have the most iconic move, which is him doing the same thing I said earlier, but like 10 times in a row, which I have to be honest again, will probably not hurt as much compared to Big Bite if we are removing the poison factor. Compared to everything else that has been on this list so far, this does not seem that threatening. But yeah, the last move is where everything shifts for the worst. Acid Rain. Keyword being acid. If you got hit by some toxic acid on your head, which I have not taken chemistry yet, but acid will most likely burn through your skin. So yeah, kiss yourself goodbyes. Even though I'm probably not a chemistry teacher, I probably know that on paper. But if it weren't for the Acid Rain, this boss would honestly be like a 6 out of 10, and since the Acid Rain even exists, a 9 out of 10, since acid is bad. red and blue, but not as cool as them, but stronger. First of all, I have to say that the weapons they have are just so much better. Number one is that even though purple has a sword, green has a full-on mace. And you know maces, they are sharp. And if you ever accidentally touched a cactus, speaking from experience, you know that it just straight up hurts. And like trying to remove all like the pricks in the cactus is like the most painful thing you've ever experienced. So seeing green literally jumping from the air and smacking you with his mace, I'm assuming at full power, will just hurt. Second move is just him smacking you twice with his mace. I feel like this will equally as hurt as the first move, because the first move he is doing it at full power, but this move he is doing it with some power. And as with purple, I would just say that the most effective move they have is swinging you 3 times with her sword, because I mean, like, come on, having a sword swung at you will just hurt in general. Even though she is a mom, I don't know if that will really help in the end. And as for Speedy Slash, this just feels like a small hit, but in general, purple just seems way easier to defeat on paper. But since green exists, it makes it much more threatening to fight them both. So to rank them individually, 3 out of 10 for purple and 6 out of 10 for green. Now, if you have seen what a turkey can do in real life, they are actually pretty scary. But this dude only has 2 moves, and the first move is just literally him pecking at you. That might be scary and all, but I feel like this is just the equivalent of Bubonic Plant 2 tail thingy attack. But this move just feels like light work. But the issue arises with the second move, Blunderbuss. This gun looks like he is shooting 18 bullets directly at you. And take a guess, how on earth do you dodge 18 bullets flying at you? But I do think that when he uses this move, you are pretty much just dead, because overall, guns are just overpowered. So for this, if Turkey only pecked at you, it would be like a 2 out of 10. But since he has a stupid secret gun, 8 out of 10. Because how do you even counter a gun? Like, do you want to wear a bulletproof vest? Now, one thing that I have to get out of the way is his ominous presence. Like, first of all, he really does not say a single word and just stays silent, meaning he can be a little bit more sneaky when it comes to doing his moves. His first move is probably the scariest because it feels like you are just gonna be hunted and you have no clue when he is going to attack you. Because for some reason, he can build a forest in like a second, which is pretty cool building if you ask me, but like, how do you do that? The second move is just him jumping into the sky and slashing you. And to be fair, this move does not seem that painful, at least compared to getting hit 4 times with a knife and having no clue when he is doing it. And he is also hitting you with a knife in all directions, like on your head, your legs, and your arms. Realistically, if you get hit by this move, you should be fine. And compared to the last move, it feels similar. The last move just looks like it'll deal similar pain to jump stab, as he attacks you immediately without giving you any time to breathe. But the reason why I would say it is similar to jump stab is because with jump stab, when you are jumping in the air, you will let out a lot more force onto the person when you are attacking them, and you are basically just charging yourself. But jump stab and cleave aren't the worst moves. The only bad move is his signature move, because how on earth are you supposed to dodge like knives getting stabbed at you when you are surrounded by a literal forest? If Slasher only had cleave and jump stab, he would be like a 5.5 out of 10, but since he has a signature move, an 8 out of 10. If anyone tried to survive a night with him, yeah, just opt out. Now, for the emotions, I won't be judging them for their attacks, but rather how much they can really impact you in real life. So let's say that guilt was a part of this. If guilt were in our minds, it would be very, very strong, as feeling the guilt for someone is just a thing that will never go away. So yeah, we are not judging the moves, as I would find that pretty boring and uninteresting. And by the way, this section will be more focused on real life stuff rather than block tales, so skip to this timestamp if you want to avoid the emotions entirely. For greed, I would say that it is definitely a strong emotion. It is like the feeling of craving crawfish, and you just cannot resist it. But yeah, around others, these emotions can be pretty scary, as if you keep on getting what you want from others and no one stops you, at that point, you will probably not be the same person, as it shifts how you value love and wealth. You might stop caring about love entirely and just focus on wealth because of how greedy you can get. But this is not nearly as bad compared to the next emotions, so 4 out of 10. It is definitely manageable if you have the right people around you, but still. And as for solitude, this is like stepping in the direction of, yes, this can do some self-harm. When you think about it, having solitude just means isolation from others. And if you are just alone in a room without human contact, you will slowly start going insane. You might even forget how the world functions just because of the pure isolation you have. Now, the last thing that might happen to you is just oofing yourself, because if you have been in isolation for that long, you are just going to start having thoughts of, why do I exist? Is this even worth it? Etc. So solitude is honestly just super sad. It's a slow demise because you'll slowly start to go insane. So 7.5 out of 10. And as for fear, I would say that it is more of a positive emotion than a negative one, because you need fear in order to survive the wild. When you feel any kind of danger, boom, fear is there to get you. Fear can also definitely push you in the right direction when it comes to real life stuff, like college applications, getting good grades, etc. So like, we kind of need fear in order to function properly. Now, I know that we need all of our emotions in order to function properly as humans. However, fear, in my opinion, is one of the most important emotions to have. So fear for me is like a 1 out of 10, as rarely, and I mean extremely rarely, it can do more harm than good. good. However, what if we were to remove fear as a common emotion in our minds? Because let's just make this video more interesting. Then that'll slowly lead us into making more dangerous choices, like not caring at all for our future, or going out in a forest with 20 slashers hunting you. This is fiction, by the way, and you get the point. It would just lead to disaster. If fear was removed, then our chances of dying will heavily increase. So it would be like a 6.5 out of 10 if fear was removed, as it isn't as deadly compared to Solitude, but it is still pretty like just deadly. And as for hatred, this will just straight up change you as a person, because if you get angry easily, people will just fear you, they will not like you, and overall it is not a great experience. And if no one likes you, you will start to feel more isolated, just like Solitude. It is like the basic building block for Solitude, kind of like nucleotides for nucleic acids in a way. Don't ask me why I am bringing biology into this, but whatever. This could be a hot take, but Solitude can be way stronger and harder to deal with. As for hatred, I'd say that it is the building block for Solitude, although huge amounts of Solitude can cause hatred, but I think it is a bit less common. I'm not sure on that though. So since I gave Solitude a 7.5 out of 10, hatred gets a 6 out of 10, as hatred is like the basic fundamental for Solitude. As for the genie, I am out of there. First of all, fame. The feeling of getting swarmed by 42 million people has to make someone just want to quit their life. If you have ever seen those videos of YouTubers getting swarmed by that many people, you might as well just teleport to another country if you have any chance of escaping from a crowd. As for rich, I would say it is like dropping 100 pennies, which might slightly hurt, but you will recover from it after like 5 minutes. However, after he finishes that, why does he decide to drop a whole statue on you? Like the statue looks like the same size as you, and that would simply just hurt. Because if you have a heavy object getting dropped down on you, that'll just hurt, simply. For the slashes moves, one of the moves that would feel like butter. It might be something controversial, but this move will not hurt you that much when it comes to pain. But compared to the next move, wind up punch, this is where the bright side comes to an end. When you have this dude charging up a punch that is flying automatically and way bigger than you, you might as well just be knocked down and be helpless. In my opinion, comparing slashes to wind up punch is like a person who hits you with little force to the same person somehow getting the ability to punch you faster than superheroes. And lastly is the car. I don't think I need to explain this move that much. If you have a car running to you at full speeds, just be ready to die, as if you know about the car accidents, you know. So 9.5 out of 10. Just what are you supposed to do against that car and like all the other moves? I feel like every single boss will either just be a 10 out of 10 or higher, as I am looking at the list I have. But as for the right hand, I would say getting flicked by a hand similar to your size wouldn't hurt nearly as bad. For one, at least from looks, his flicks look pretty average and not like a Thanos snap. Now comparing the right hand to the left hand is like an older and younger sibling rivalry. The left hand is just like the car all over again, as it is moving at similar speeds, and knowing that the car move is pretty much instant death, this will also be like instant death. But the thing that about these hands is that they look very weak to defeat in general, because well, they are just hands, and hands are weak, right? And as for the main head, his bite looks like light work, as a bite does not seem to be that damaging to you. Even though he is a big boy, it doesn't look as bad as most people think, and by the looks of his mouth, it is not even that sharp, but rather it probably just grips you tightly to deal damage. And finally, the Ray of Raw is probably the second most brutal move behind the left hand, because he shoots out a beam of fire, and just like croaking, you do not want to burn to death. And also he shoots it out extremely fast, giving you like 0 time to react. For this, the right hand gets a 4 out of 10 because his flicks look very weak. The left hand a 9 out of 10, as it is just the car move version 2, but like worse. And as for the main head, a 6 out of 10, as the bite move does not look too bad, but the ray is bad, since fire is bad. As for the Pyroman himself, let's just say that he is the second Cruel King, because he is old but insanely powerful. The first thing we have to look at is the Firebrand, which is basically just an upgraded version of the Ray of Ra, because fire equals fire, yeah? And when you have Trotter spitting out fire directly at you, that is like saying you are running into a forest fire without thinking much. But yeah, fire hurts, simple explanation. Now with the second fire move, aka the barrel toss, this is, I would say, the Firebrand move, but even worse, as all the fire is directly pointed at you, instead of it all spreading out at once. However, I feel like this move would be entirely useless, because if you take a look at the barrel, it actually looks like it would need some strength in order to break it, since it is all made out of wood. But you ask me, is the barrel hard to break? It is made out of wood, but like, unless Trotter is a strong boy, I don't think he is breaking that. Now the final two moves are him either shooting you one single time or 3 times in a row. And the logic is simple. The move where he shoots you 3 times will be more lethal. Anyone can figure that out. But there is one dumb advantage with the single coin move, and that is that we might get too distracted admiring Trotter's ultra kill skills and just get hit by it when we could have easily dodged it. But I would give Trotter a 7.5 out of 10, as Cruel King is definitely stronger because of more magic stuff, and Trotter is just, well, a fire boy. One of if not the best OST in the whole game because of the vocals. The first move is just him smacking you twice with his hand, and this move looks pretty weak. It might be a little painful at first, but it is just a wind-up punch, but he does it 2 times. His next move is beam, which compared to the next move looks like butter. But this also looks slightly painful as it is just one big beam, and I would honestly compare this move to a gun, but the bullet feels like plastic. And the next move is frightening, as it is basically a fireball. Since fireballs are just balls of fire, wow, I know, it would straight up hurt you when contacting it, since fire hurts. And finally, the most dangerous move is getting smited 19 times with this insane beam. And this is going to be bad. First of all, this is directly aimed at your head, so it will automatically give you a headache from getting smited over 19 times. And like, how do you even avoid 19 lasers getting thrown at you? But in general, the ultimate move definitely makes this dude a scary boss, but if it weren't for that, he would be like a 3 out of 10, but since that move does exist, I would give him a 6.5 out of 10. Now, okay, this dude's logic is wild. First of all, with both of the bat moves, bat combo and bat smackdown, both of these moves are low-key not as painful as you would think. At the end of the day, these are both just him hitting you with a baseball bat. And compared to the previous stuff we had, like guns, ice, and fire, you should be fine when it comes to a baseball bat. Now, here comes an actual scary thing, his baseball moves. There are 2 variants of this. One of them is him yeeting a baseball to you as soon as possible. And the second variant is him charging a baseball and being ready to be shot at. As for both of these moves, I would say that they are both considered equal. But you have to understand something. Baseballs actually hurt. If you have seen injuries from baseball matches, they are just brutal. The first variant is just him throwing it as soon as possible, which for one is nearly impossible to dodge if you have a baseball thrown at you at the high speeds. And the second variant is the better one, as he first charges up the baseball and yeets it to you, but at the cost that if you have a baseball ready to be swung at you at full speed, it'll definitely deal more damage. But to be honest, baseballs are nearly impossible to dodge because of how fast they are. So I don't even know if this is a fair contest. But anyways, Finn basically has 4 moves, of which half of them can deal serious damage, and the other half is just like a slap on the wrist. With all that being said, Finn gets a 7.5 out of 10 compared to everything else, and I'm starting to really wonder, how many baseball bats and balls does he have in his basement, if he can throw that many baseball balls at us? I am having PTSD when it comes to camping because every time I go camping, all of a sudden I have 42 mosquito bites on me. But anyways, when it comes to both of these moves, they are both just bad. Because like Supreme Ant, mosquitoes bite you and they itch like crazy. So constantly resisting the temptation to scratch yourself will be insanely difficult. But when it comes to the double pierce move, I think this will be less brutal because she is not sucking your blood, as it is just her stabbing you twice. And my reasoning for that is that she does not suck up your health when she does this move, but rather just stabs you with the double wielding swords she has. But the move that she does try to bite you with, she does it once. But not going to lie, if you get hit, you might as well just run away because trying not to scratch yourself is like mission impossible. And when you are in this state, fighting becomes harder, dodging also, and basically everything becomes harder as you are constantly itching. When it comes to this, I would give Supreme Mosquito an 8.5 out of 10 just because I feel like a Supreme Ant bite is much more painful but not as itchy compared to a mosquito bite. Both Supreme Ant and Mosquito are similar in size, so it is not a shocker for them to be close in the rankings. The Overseers. Do you think it is a cool idea to add them to the main story or not? Totally not referencing the rewrite video, right? You should go watch it though, but enough shame plugging. When it comes to Opticus, Thrust does not look that bad, as it is his most basic move, and you will see later on that his moves nearly become so hard to dodge, like Trotter's coin flip. Okay, I lied. The next move, which is his Overseer combo, is not as complicated, but painful still, as he swings directly into your chest without remorse, which I think the chest is like probably one of the strongest body parts, but still. Now the next 2 moves are like, how on earth are you supposed to combat that? Because of the first one with Warping Dive, this man jumps into the air and all of a sudden uses portals in order to slash you. Like, what are you supposed to do against that? Get your own portal gun or something? And he also does this attack twice, which makes this even worse. And he even jumps in the air and one of the swords come from above you, which is like, bro. Off topic, but this animation does look sick as hell, which thank God Zelda didn't animate, otherwise Fuzzled would literally mention it every single time. But I am not hating on the dude, as he did animate some dope cutscenes like Chapter 2's Mysterious Figure, Telemon jumping from the sky, and the beginning cutscene for Demo 5. Okay, back on topic. The last move is him backstabbing you with a portal. This might be possible to avoid in real life, but extremely, and I mean extremely hard, because you have to basically watch Opticus's movement every millisecond. But yeah, this dude has the most complex moves I've ever seen, and all of them look pretty scary, so 9.5 out of 10. What stops him from being a 10 is that he is an old man, so he might screw up on some of the moves, but still, he is well trained from what it looks like, so I don't know what the odds are of him failing a move. Reggie boy, you already know my relations with him, but I hate him. Now okay, I know the announcement of the story says that Reginald has good intentions and is meant to be disliked, but I don't care. The other council members are better. But I have to say that while Reginald is the person who focuses on pure strength based on his dialogue, I'd honestly say he's the second strongest council member because he lacks wisdom. So he can't really strategize well. And Azuri even mentions this. And Azuri, you are right. When it comes to his moves, all of them feel like he's just attacking you without putting much thought into how it will turn out. Quick axe is basically just him swinging his axe towards you as soon as possible. And I feel like this could be bad. As well, it might deal some damage to the player. If you swing an axe that fast, your arms could get worn out and like it'll be much harder to like attack the person. And as for the charge move, it has a similar story to quick axe. When you charge at someone, you can easily run out of energy unless you have good stamina. But considering Reginald loves strength more than wisdom, I don't think he would factor that in. And I don't know, he'll start becoming like Sonic or something. And as for axe, spin, and strike, both of these moves are in general sort of scary, as I think he is slowly charging up for both of these, but not fully, so he does not waste his full strength. Wow, I know. But I feel like his wisdom might get the best of him, and he doesn't use that to his fullest potential, so 5.5 out of 10. Although if Azuri gave Reginald wisdom, he would be like a 7 out of 10. Now, as for Robur, I have to say that this man is the complete opposite of Reginald, as he focuses more on wisdom than strength because of the court case we had. But when it comes to this, Robur is like the type of person to be more kind-hearted, as he has faith in Cassie becoming queen, unlike Reggie. But as for his moves, they are all kind of simple to avoid, as he, for one, charges very, and I mean very slowly, even when he attacks you. It doesn't really look like he is using most of his strength, but a bit. And the only other move he has is Frenzy, which just looks like he is trying to smack you 4 times without putting much force into it. So not going to lie, I feel like his faith in us is definitely one of the things contributing to him being the weakest out of the 3 council members. But that doesn't mean I hate him. In fact, I'd say he is the best council member out of the 3 because Reginald is annoying and Azuri is just kind of there and kind of cool. But Robur is just a cool guy. And he's also blue, which blue is a good color. But okay, as for strength, hate me on this, but a 4 out of 10. He kind of just relies on the combo moves to deal damage, but that doesn't mean he sucks. Although, if this was on like a cool tier list, he would be like a 10. Now here comes all the Azuri sims, of whom I know there are definitely some. But yeah, she is definitely the strongest council member by far. All because of her freaking wizard staff. Because unlike Reginald and Robur, who uses their weapons that get up close to you, Azuri mostly likes to keep her distance away from us. She also has the most strength and wisdom out of the 3 members, because she literally challenges you to an escape room, and can freaking one-shot you with a blast as well, which is just so amazing. And also I mentioned this, but she never starts a combo move. And another cool fact is that Robur starts 2 of the combo moves, and Reginald only starts 1 of them. She is also just cold-blooded because, bro, she wants us dead. Like, she starts off with the charge move, knowing that it'll 100% kill us. And she didn't even wait to do it in the middle of the fight to give us a chance. No, she just wants us dead. And the least brutal moves are her staff moves, which are moments where she starts to calm down, but like, it's still not that great. The first is double staff, and this is a pretty free move. But another thing is that when she does this move, she smacks you once, but then smacks you again like 1 frame later, which is just cold-blooded and doesn't even give you any time to breathe. For the staff combo, this one is normal, but I think she is trying to slowly take her time to swing at you to make herself more unpredictable. So I don't know if she is really giving you a break or just wanting to kill you. Who knows what goes on within Azuri's mind. And lastly, spin dive, which, let's be so honest, she literally just goes ham on you, like she starts becoming like a forest bear or something. And lastly, when she is about to do her final move, she literally tries to pierce your head and probably crack it open. And that is not even the worst moves. She has 3 other spells. The first one is Ice Storm, and just like Crow King, it is nearly impossible to dodge this in real life. And if you get frozen, rip your body, and you might as well accept your fate. And also, she is the one who taught Crow King how to use this ice move. So like, if she knows how to start it and Crow King learned from her, what are you supposed to do? For the fireball move, this is definitely the least scary move when it comes to all 3 of her spells. Fire compared to actual electricity and ice is like nothing. But finally, the move that everyone hates with their whole life is lightning. This move is like super dangerous because when you have that much electricity come into your body, you are obviously going to get electrocuted. And like, the big question is, how the hell do you avoid lightning? Like, realistically, think about it. How do you avoid lightning? Anyways, Azuri is just the strongest council member when it comes to wisdom and brute strength. But like, all the strength she has gets carried because of her staff. So to all the Azuri sims, she gets a 10 out of 10 for strength. You got what you got, man. So you made it this far into the video, and congrats, because you're about to reach demo 5. But I want to go on a small rant, because Fuzzled is like a cool person that I met. So like, how strong would she be in a fight? Like, would she be like very, very strong compared to like some of these bosses on the list? Or just very, very weak? And my honest answer to that is like, it heavily depends. Number 1 is that I think Fuzzled is stronger than me, because like, she always curses a lot, and like, I feel like people who curse a lot will like be more offensive in a way when it comes to like physical fights. Unless that's just me stereotyping others, but like, who knows. But like, even though like she seems very strong in real life because her Roblox avatar has like a little vaccine on her back which might cause COVID-20, there are like two things that can break the fight. Number one is crawfish. Crawfish. And like, I'm probably the only person that knows this, but like Fuzzled loves crawfish. Like, she probably eats it more than like any other person would. Like, she will catch all the crawfish in the ocean and like start munching on them left and right without mercy. So like, if I just bribed her with a bunch of crawfish, I think it'll give her a sign to like be peaceful to me, like, you know? And then the second thing is that like, for some reason, this is the weirdest thing I've ever seen, but like, apologies somehow make her like feel better, no matter what the thing is. Like, if it's the smallest thing that I've ever done, which is call her old, which yes, I did call her old and she wanted an apology, I don't know, she has like a dopamine hit or something with the apologies. Like, it's pretty funny, and all I have to do is just say like, yo Fuzzled, I'm sorry, I don't want to fight you anymore, I truly apologize to you and I don't want to do this ever again. And then she'll start jumping up and down like a frog and like will be the happiest person you've ever seen her in. So yeah, the only way to beat her is just like get crawfish from the ocean and start apologizing left and right, and boom, you can win against Fuzzled in a fight. When it comes to all three of these moves, they are all just wild, and I'll be ranking all of these individually since that would make it way less confusing. First, we have Reginald and Robur, and this is honestly the least brutal move that exists, as it is just Reginald and Robur smacking you with their weapons, and their weapons do not look that strong when it comes to slashing us. So this move gets a 5 out of 10, as it looks hella mid. Now we have Robur and Azuri, and this is pretty much just an upgraded version of the previous combo. For one, you have to avoid many more slashes, and it is overall just much more overwhelming to dodge because all of a sudden, you have like 50 slashes coming from 42 different directions, and you just end up losing track of all of the slashes. So 7 out of 10. I didn't know Azuri and Robur can be like that brutal, bruh. Last but not least is Reginald and Azuri. Definitely the most brutal move on this list. First of all, Azuri is the one who is literally doing the move because Reginald knows he is weak, but he carries Azuri, and Azuri decides to aim directly at your head with her staff. When you look at it closely, you will start to realize the horrors Azuri has for us because she wants us dead. More dead than a ghost. Because if she's directly aiming at our head, what? So this obviously gets a 10 out of 10. Like, there's just no way to avoid this move, and once you get hit by it, your head might be chopped in half, okay? If you made it this far, congrats, as this is the definition of the strongest boss in the whole game. Before we move on to the moves, we have to understand that Frostmaw shoots out blue fire rather than normal fire, which is way stronger. And since fire is already strong enough, blue is more than enough. The second move is a tornado, and really just put into words how big a tornado can get. You have seen those videos of like tornadoes flying into houses, okay? Like, what do you think they can do to a human? You might as well just give up and accept defeat. But realistically, how does Frostmaw summon a tornado? But all of that pales in comparison whenever he gets knocked out, because all of a sudden, he decides to get 3 extra moves. But the nice thing is that he cannot do the tornado and fireball moves, which honestly don't even help that much considering these 3 moves are also insanely overpowered. First is the ice ball, and this is basically just an upgraded version of the 3 fireballs, because now it freezes you, and dodging that big of an ice ball is nearly impossible. Like, how do you avoid it? Secondly, Frostmaw summons volcano ashes from the sky, and to put it simply, it is death, because when you have that much ash coming down from the sky, you just cannot run from it, because the width of it is so much longer than ever. Another thing is that he does it 2 times, and the amount of times he gives you to react is super short. Once you see the first ashes fall down, it pretty much becomes impossible to avoid the second one. Finally, he shakes the ground pretty hard, so you might as well have a hard time balancing yourself when standing. Now finally, the last move is just him biting you, but this is yet again probably the worst move that exists, because how on earth do you avoid a literal dragon trying to bite you? And whenever he does this, the sounds he makes in game sound like he is biting you hard. He somehow found a way to close his mouth faster than I could ever react, so no matter what, when you get hit, rip all your bones and just probably collapse on the ground. Combining this with all his other moves, this dude is like the definition of the strongest boss in the whole game, at least when it comes to real life. But in the game, this dude is like the easiest thing ever, because this guy is just easy, okay? So 10 out of 10, like no shockers, bro. Like, a grill, can you please like train your dragon to be less strong? This is quite the literal opposite of Frostmaw, because in game, this dude is the strongest being, but when it comes to real life, he does look very weak. Pretty much all his moves just involve him smacking you. Like, Slam has 2 versions, one being just him putting all his force onto you, and the other being 3 weak slams. But comparing this to Frostmaw, it is like a nothing burger. And with Stretch, this move looks like something a human would do to you if they were ever in a fight with you. But the final 2 moves are way more scary, because the previous 2 moves were very weak. The first is Rocket, where he decides to yeet out his whole hand towards you at pretty fast speeds actually. actually. And looking at that in real life can most likely knock you down. And I don't know what else it can cause. With Barrage, I feel like you could just tank the hits because it looks like something a boxer would do to someone if they were ever fighting each other. But in general, this dude looks very weak except for the final 2 moves that look like bonkers. But this dude, compared to everything else on this list, is not so strong. So 4 out of 10. This dude just makes himself look like a boxer rather than an actual boss. I promise the next video will be doors because the archives teaser was so freaking cool and I need to get some of that dopamine. The archives is where all the forgotten memories go, and archives tomorrow. Yippee!